Okay. So I record these sessions just for the sake of archiving and also to share with folks who miss it and want the video later, but it's not anything that we make public. So good morning and happy Sunday to you all. Also the newcomers. Luis, you want to introduce yourself? Because I do need to see you coming back. Eduardo is the only male fijo. He comes here every Sunday. And he was also hesitant because for some reason, it's mostly women. But we also have Edward here. Edward, you seem to be new as well. If you could introduce yourself, I'll really appreciate it. But let's start with you, Louis. Let us know where you are, why you're here, how you heard about us.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Louis. I'm actually from the Heights, but I moved to Brooklyn about 2 years ago. Me gradué, I left I left the parents' house,
Lord
left the
traitor,
family.
how you leave the Heights, man?
I
I
miss
left
it
the
a
Heights
lot.
and I came back.
I think I will too, honestly.
No, the rent here is crazy. Stay in Brooklyn if it's better.
Fair. But I've always enjoyed writing. I work a bit in my work. I work at a PR firm. So it's mainly a bit more objective or, what my client wants me to write, whether it's like a press release or an op-ed. So I kind of haven't enjoyed that part of having like a very controlled or like just doing what my client wants me to do. So I just wanting to build up my own practice again, and I think this is a good way to do it.
We definitely need PR. So if you could join us, please. We have some projects that are gonna need PR.
Love
Um,
that. I'm happy to
what
help.
what type of who are your clients? Like what type of people are your clients? Like celebrities? Is it influencers? Is it
No,
authors? Is it
it's pretty cool. I work at it's an agency, and I do a little more like advocacy PR. So I work with like the New York Immigration Coalition, the Brooklyn Public Library, some of the folks that I work with. So I enjoy it. It's
oh,
pretty cool.
so
Yeah.
maybe Dominican Writers is a nonprofit. We could probably fall under advocacy PR.
There
We advocate for Dominican writers.
you go. There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good morning, Rosita.
Good morning. How's everybody?
Edward, are you there? Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are. Eddie Paulino, is that who it is?
Almonte.
Él entró como, no, there's another Edward.
Oh, I see.
And I think it's déjame ver. He's in the chat. Oh, his battery is running low, but I think it's Professor Edward Paulino from John Jay College, who teaches global history. He's one of our writing salon members who comes in every so often cuando se acuerda that we exist. Yeah, so let me let Ashley in. Yo, AI is integrated into everything. It's now part.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Angie. And I always know that you exist.
Is now part, AI is now part of the Zoom. Like AI wow. I mean, I love it because I'm enjoying AI. But good morning, everyone. So announcements. Eileen is connecting from somewhere else. Morning, Ashley. Eileen is connecting from another device. Okay. Ashley, have you been here before?
Hi everyone. Yes, I have been. I've come to a few of the writers workshop.
Okay. What's that? You have Elizabeth Acevedo's book?
Yes, yes I do.
What? It's like a poster?
No, I have her book. Like I have like a Velcro piece in the back of it and I posted it here. When I was doing online classes, I like wanted to have like a little promotion here, but this is my favorite book. This is how I got into I like learned about her and yeah, changed my life.
Yeah, that was her first book, which people have very little idea it exists. Because Poet X is what blew her up.
Yeah, but, it has like such good like myth stories about like growing
Yeah.
up in the DR.
She
So
wrote that poetry book while she was still teaching, and when she
wow.
was still performing and doing poetry slams, because she would enter the competitions or whatnot. So
Wow.
it's a wonderful collection of poetry. But okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. The Dominican Book Fair is happening in the Bronx at Lehman College, November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Subscribe to our newsletter because I still have a whole bunch of info to send out, but I'm also working with the Ministerio de Cultura and they are mad slow. They have me tight because I would have announced this like 2 months ago. But the Ministerio de Cultura works on DR time and I just can't, like, it just, like, the director just texted me right now. And it's just a pain in the butt because I have an event that's happening in 2 weeks and I haven't been able to announce it yet because they want me to use their templates. And I'm just like, where are they? Why haven't I gotten them yet? Like, the event is in 2 weeks. So that's like really frustrating for me because I am not the type of person that organizes anything at the last minute. But yeah, so November 3rd is actually going to be the inauguration of the book fair. So it's going to be at Lovinger Theater and Lehman College. It's going to be a huge celebration. I'm pretty sure they're going to bring like some celebrity, like maybe Rudy Perez or Meli Quesada or something like that to come open up the book fair. And then there's going to be a discussion, a panel that is going to include Rita Indiana, Lisette Norman, and a few other prominent Dominican writers. I unfortunately cannot be there November 3rd because it's my cousin's wedding and she will kill me if I don't make it. So I have to miss that. But Mariela, who is my right arm at DWA, will be there because she's moderating the panel. So I was like, you need to be there. I can't be there, so she will be there. And then the book fair launches at 10 a.m. Saturday morning with a bunch of conversations and discussions and whatnot. We're gonna have a room specifically for kids where they can do arts and crafts and readings and whatnot. Where's my? Let me see. I'm trying to find the. Where is it? I'm trying to find the goddamn program, and now I can't find it. Give me a sec. Because it was shared with me yesterday morning, and I'm pretty sure they're probably gonna have a few more. Okay, that's not it. We're probably going to have a few more edits on this thing. Where is this? I'm sorry. Anyway, we're gonna have a bunch of stuff happening, a lot of conversations, a lot of authors. So I don't know how many of you have attended the book fair before. Raise your hand if you have. So a little bit of the
Not a
Dominican
book
book
fair.
fair. You've attended the Dominican book fair?
No, just a book
Okay.
fair. Okay.
No. So the Dominican Book Fair is a special type of monster, is usually in the past has been one of the messiest, shadiest book fair ever in New York City. And I will be honest and say that because I've attended them. Okay. And one of the reasons why Dominican Writers Platform exists was as a protest to that goddamn book fair. Because what they would do is that they will give a visa to every person in DR who ever said I write. And then they would bring him here to New York City. And then they would never, ever include writers like us, right? Writers who write in English, who publish in English, who submit to literary journals and whatnot. Like the Dominican American writer who primarily writes in English is never included, ever. Okay? Which was my biggest pet peeve, because I was like, I'm Dominican too, but I don't write in Spanish. What's up? And I actually did get into some beef with a professor at CUNY DSI this past Thursday over that same BS again. And I'm pretty sure he didn't know who I was, but now he knows who I am. So he probably hates me right now and doesn't want anything to do with me or the platform. But anyway, I hope he just takes that conversation as a learning lesson. But yeah, so the last book fair that was hosted in 2021 was here in Washington Heights at the high school that's by me, George Washington High School. They would rent out the space and whatnot. And that book fair was just, oh my God. So the director who had that position then took like the gym, and she brought all kinds of artisans from DR, like people who make jewelry, like if you wanted to buy Larimar jewelry, like if you wanted to buy un gallo de madera, like if you wanted to buy anything that was handmade that you can only find in DR, she brought those people over here. Okay. And then she brought I think that she tapped into like 5 provinces that do the carnaval, and she brought those carnival groups from DR. And then let's see, she gave space for people who had nothing to do with books. Like there was a lady there, si tú querías aprender a sacarte la ceja, there was a room for that at a book fair. But guess who didn't have a room? I didn't have a room. Dominican Writers Association, the biggest writers association in New York City representing Dominicans, didn't have a room. She had the gall to give us, Emma, she gave us, what was it, Jadi? She gave us like a high school desk.
Yeah, she gave us a high school desk.
Yeah,
We actually had to put a big desk. We had to take a big desk to somebody.
And we had to find a 6-foot desk, and us women carry it, because then she put us in the back of a classroom where nobody was seeing it. But we were like, okay, fuck that. We're gonna get a 6-foot desk from somewhere, and we're gonna put it in the hallway where everybody sees us. And of course, we were the table that the young folks were gravitating to, because they're not reading in Spanish. And then we had this issue of, I was requested to include a very specific panel within the book fair of Dominican American authors, right? I was requested to do this by Professor Silvio Torres Sailan. He thought it was important for us to include a conversation about what's going on with Dominican Americans and our writing. So I included Angie Cruz and Clavis Natera and Yanni Antigua, Francis Mateo, and a few other prominent Dominican authors during that time for this conversation. But this woman had us running back and forth because she would switch the room on us like every 5 minutes. And then it takes a lot to get me angry. Like it takes a lot. I don't take anything personal. It takes a lot for me to get angry. But that day she saw a different side of me that she probably hopes she doesn't see again, because my Washington Heights ghetto girl came out and said something really spicy to her, and because I just didn't appreciate it, right? So I have a relationship with a lot of our authors. Like I text Elizabeth Acevedo, I text Angie Cruz, I can text Clavis. I have personal relationship with these writers, and I am very careful when I ask for favors. Right? I could ask them to come to everything we do, but I do not. There are very specific things that I request from them. And when I do, they oblige. But I am very careful about it, right? Those are relationships that I take care of and that I nurture. And when you are embarrassing me and you have me, I ask these people for these favors, like Angie doesn't go to these book fairs, you know? But Angie was the biggest author in this book fair, and she was disrespected. So I didn't really appreciate that much. But things have changed. The director now of the book fair is a Dominican American professor of the University of Chicago. He's very in tune with what's going on because he grew up in the US and he loves our platform. So one of the first things that he did was that he requested that we partner with him to do the programming for the book fair. So, and that is a huge change because it is the first time that Dominican writers of second and third generation are included. First time. It's embarrassing to say, but it's the first time that I get to invite you all and say, hey, can you sit in a panel, or would you like to participate in an activity or whatnot? Which I hope continues to be, even if he decides to leave the position. You know, but then you have people who don't value that. Like when we posted the save the date, the Ministerio de Cultura called the director and asked him not to post the caption in English. And the director calls me pissed off, and he's like, I needed to share this with you. These goddamn people just called me from DR and they asked me not to post the caption in English because we're Dominican and we are ¿cómo se dice? Alimentando la cultura. And you know, and I'm like, but yeah, but we speak English. We speak English too. We write in English, we live in English, we move in English. What about those our kids, right? Like my kid knows English, but Spanish, but he prefers English. My kid reads in English. He reads our Dominican books in English. So are you telling me that there's no room for you to include those people? And it was just like the dumbest conversation to have with people. But believe you me, a lot of these groups are very elitist and very classist, and we even have professors that are like that here today, who prevent us from writing in the language that we express ourselves in right now. Like I had a long conversation with Professor Edward here yesterday about that because he's also an academic, the only academic friend I have. Well, not the only one, but it's just the majority of them are very elitist. So, you know, it's always this back and forth with telling them that we should also be included in the discussion when you speak about Dominican literature, right? So this past Thursday, they launched a magazine and it was celebrating Dominican literature on and off the island. And they did include now one Dominican writer who only writes in English. And I was gonna go there and I wasn't gonna say anything. I was gonna keep my mouth shut. I was gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, the professor, they gotta know what they're doing, whatever. You know, I knew every single writer on that panel, and every single writer on that panel knows me because I make sure that I know these people. The only person I didn't know was the guest editor, who's a professor at the University of Toronto, and he teaches Dominican literature. So there was this like 70-something-year-old lady who sat there and she asked, how come groups who write in English and Spanish weren't included in the anthology? They brushed her off. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not the only one that thinks this way. So I said, you know what? Let's stop beating around the bush, and I'm just going to ask you directly, why did you exclude Dominican American writers that only write in English? And he had the gall to tell me that it was due to lack of communication because we don't talk to each other and because he doesn't know any. Yeah, ríete, Eileen, because I wanted to laugh, but I was just really pissed off when he said that to me. And I'm like, you are a PhD. Part of your responsibility is to do the research on Dominican writers so that you could include them when you're talking and teaching Dominican literature. And I'm very curious to know what he's teaching his students, because we're not connecting with Salome Ureña. We're connecting with Elizabeth Acevedo, our generation, right? Things have changed. We got to update ourselves, right? So for him to sit there and tell me, I teach this, but I don't know any. And I was like, oh, you're just lazy. Okay, I got it. I got it. And when he said it's due to lack of communication, I pointed to the author that was sitting right next to him, Saida Corniel, who teaches at Lehman College and who teaches at Stony Brook University, because Saida has an entire curriculum on Dominican literature where she includes writers within the past 10 years. Right? So I said, if she could do it, so can you. And I didn't go to Saida and tell her to include us in her curriculum. She did that by herself because she was interested, she was curious, she did her research, and she did the work. So can you. So when it really concerns me when we're left, when even, you're a professor, what are you teaching? You're not teaching our work. Why? Why are you not looking it up? So that's very offensive to me. So I wrote an open letter, which I posted in our newsletter this week. And I kept it very professional because what I really wanted to say was, I said what I said. If you disagree, catch me outside and we could talk. That's how I really wanted to. Like, I really wanted to get ghetto on that letter, but I had to keep it professional because I'm the executive director of this platform. And I had my editor look at it and go through it just to make sure that I didn't say anything sideways where people were going to come at me and rip me a new one. But the letter was well received. I got a lot of emails from people saying thank you and I feel the same way and whatnot. So, it was about making sure that Dominican American writers who primarily write in English are also included in the discourse of Dominican literature. And, the disservice that you do to students when you don't include them. And that's for Latinx overall, but since we represent Dominican writers, my focus was on Dominican writers. But I took up enough of your time, 30 minutes. If you ever want to gossip with me on what goes on behind the scenes of Dominican spaces, I'm here for you. Because often I need to vent on the craziness that be happening because I'd be surprised as well. But let's see. Una sinvergüencería. Yes, Eileen, that is correct. That is correct. Let me see. Where's my share button? Okay. This one. Can you see the presentation? You see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about the power of words, writing the stories that you needed to hear when you were a kid, right? Like I was reading Goosebumps, I was reading Babysitter's Club and whatnot, but I wasn't reading Latino stories. Like now we have so many middle grade and young adult incredible stories. Like I am in love with the stories that are now coming out from our Latino authors, and the topics that they're touching. So first things first, I want you to take about 5 minutes and write down a story or a moment in your life that shaped you. Okay, so let's take 5 minutes and do that. It could be about anything or anyone, just a story that shaped who you are, who made an impact in your life or whatnot. And I'm going to ask you folks to share. We have 3 more minutes. One more minute.
You have taken ownership of my mother. I never deny it.
Okay, who wishes to share first? If you don't volunteer, I'll just call you out. All right,
I'll go.
Ashley, come on.
Oh, go ahead.
You can go first, Alexa.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I wrote about my first day in England because I did a study abroad semester there back in 2018. It was like also during Trump era. So I was traveling to England as an American, also Hispanic American, who constantly kept getting told, why did we vote for Trump? And I had to keep explaining to myself, keep explaining to everybody that I did not vote for him. I had class that day, but I also made sure to vote online. So it's a really short piece. So I wrote, I was sitting in a classroom far away from home. England was a second home I didn't know I needed. I was surrounded by accents that weren't my own. I was Dominican, I was not. I was American, and I was not. My accent was an in between thing that sat still and scared and frozen around the people around me and didn't know how to be. My instructor, James Burns, smiled at me and said it could be anything you want it to be if you let it. And I felt like I could breathe.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. No, we have a large population of Dominicans in London.
We do? That's good to know.
There's a group called Dominicanos en Acción. You can find them on Instagram, and what they do is they help Dominicans settle in London. They help them
That's
with
so
resources, they help them get their papers in order, all kinds of things. Yeah, it's run by this lady called Saida, I think is her name. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's a pretty big group. You know, because London has and England has a large population of Caribbeans, Jamaicans, also from India and whatnot. So
Mhm.
yeah. We up in there. We up in everywhere.
We are. I mostly only was able to notice more like Jamaicans and Indians while I was mostly in London, and then I went to northern England, like near Liverpool and Manchester, where it was mostly like Indian and some Hispanic, but not a lot. So that's really comfortable to know that they're in London.
Yeah, we everywhere, girl. You just gotta look for us.
Mm.
What about you, Ashley?
Hi everyone. I wrote about this mentor who I met when I was 13 at my youth organization, which I'm now working at, which is like just such a beautiful full circle moment. But she was a
What organization is that?
Youth in Action. I'm based in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay.
Mhm. And yeah, she was the first person that reminded me that I was like a storyteller. Like she really made me come to terms with that in a really beautiful way. She's Iranian and just love her so much. She told me these words. This is what inspired writing this. One time I was like telling her a story and I was going off like just on a rant because that's how like I like she would make me feel so comfortable. And she was like, Ashley, she was like, you want to keep writing these poems, but you are the poem. And I was just like,
Oh,
yeah. And like hearing that from her, someone who like is just such a powerful like storyteller, was just like so beautiful. So this is what I wrote. It's really short. I sat with Pega in what was one of the most vintage and rustic cafes I had ever been in Providence. It had to be vegan or something. The food had an organic taste to it, just how Pega's essence pulsated, authentic. I said to her, I was chosen by God. I was retelling the story of how I was crowned by chance in Dominican Republic. Pega reaffirmed to me, you were chosen, but it was not by chance.
nice. Okay. Love it. So have you been writing since then?
I have. I've been writing a lot. I wrote a lot in college. I just graduated in May.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah,
remember.
and I actually just started a Substack because I really want to like publish things like out there.
Oh,
Like,
please share it in the chat.
yes, let me share. Let me
And
share.
for those who are still rooting for Juno Diaz, please follow his sub chat because it is incredible. Juno has a Substack. It is really, really good. And he also holds office hours if you want to ask him questions. So I highly, I respect if you don't want to know anything about Juno, but if you still respect his writing, please share. So Substack is basically a platform where people go and share their stories. And depending on how many followers you accumulate, you could then start charging for people to go in there and read you. So it's different from Medium. Well, kind of like Medium. But yeah, definitely look it up because if you are a writer and you're gonna be writing like crazy or whatnot, and you want to share your stories, Substack is a great way to go about it. I believe it also allows you to send out like blog posts, like newsletter type blog posts. I have a writer that I subscribe to, and I always get her insights, is what she calls it, on what she's working on and whatnot. So it's really great. There's a lot of platforms out there that are really good for you to share your writing with the public. So yeah, we're about to follow you, Ashley.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm excited. I literally just started it and I posted something that I wrote in my creative writing class in Spanish.
Nice,
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Okay,
But
Eduardo,
Angie,
te toca.
I understand that if you publish online, when you want to publish your book, publishers don't want to touch it because it's already been published. It's not an original.
That is, so how do I say this? Because so people aren't publishing stories. They're not publishing chapters of their story. They're publishing their thoughts. They're giving out their opinions about a certain topic. Some people have no interest of publishing anywhere else, Rosita, right?
Okay.
But if your intention is to publish a book, don't
Right.
include those pieces online.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's it. Okay, because yes, they will ask you.
It's clear.
They want exclusivity. Whatever you want to put in a book later on, don't publish it online or anywhere else. Publish anything else but the book content. okay? But for example, Junot Diaz talks about the state of writing. He gives his opinion. He shares about how it's still taking him so long to write his next novel. He talks to you about imposter syndrome, stuff like that. That's what he writes about. He's not sharing his story with us like his novel. He's just talking to writers about writing, which is why I recommend it. You know, Ashley probably has no interest in publishing the poem anywhere else besides her Substack. So that's totally fine. All right, Eduardo, te toca.
¿Cómo estamos?
Hi.
I misunderstood the assignment, but I think I passed it anyway. Because
How you misunderstand the assignment?
porque I thought what you meant was write about a story that has like that somebody else wrote and that you read or that you consumed that was meaningful to you, not about you and your life. But check it out. I get maybe a C plus, maybe a B. We'll see.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Because the thing is that when I was in middle school, fresh off the boat, dual language middle school, really wonderful school for me because I didn't speak any English and I just was blessed that way. I became the master of ceremonies of the talent show. And since it was a dual language middle school, it was cool that I was like this repressed little kid who never had literally any time to speak out. And they loved me, you know, chubby little Eduardo. And I performed El Problema con los Huracanes by Victor Hernández Cruz, the Puerto Rican poet. And if anybody wants to Google it, it's about a man talking to a campesino about the dangers of hurricanes, that it really isn't the wind or the rain or the water, it's the mangoes and coconuts that might just bash your head in. And it's a very hilarious poem. So yeah, so I basically wrote about that, how wonderful it was to get up on stage and to just tell these people something that really I had experienced hurricanes and I didn't know it was a big deal until I came to the US. So that's what I wrote.
Nice. Okay, can you share the title of the story and the author in the chat so we can look it up?
You got it. I'll share a link.
Louis, you ready to share?
Yeah, I did something similar to Eduardo too, actually.
Guy thing. Yeah.
But I said I'm always struck by stories of my family's early days in the United States. When my great grandmother first arrived to New York, she was just visiting New York. She was worried because she thought that the fire escapes were the entrances to the buildings. She didn't know how she was going to get up there, you know? She's this old lady. And that always has stuck with me because I think it shows how different the lives of my ancestors were and just how significant it was to come to this country. And, you know, I guess what a big change it was. And that's as far as I got.
Okay, thank you. Eileen?
Okay. Let me see. I'm just gonna read it. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Okay. It hasn't been until recently that I came to terms about what this moment did and meant for me. I must have been 14. I had a folder en una computadora vieja, una de esas de cajones que a veces ni prendía. I would arrive from school and do my homework outside of the computer and then leave the evening for computer tasks because my secret was self-kept, sorry. Late at night, I would write. I created a document bigger than my dreams could ever dream at that moment in time. I wrote about brujas, la luna, el amor, mi primer beso, la película que no vi, the people I met, mi tía querida que falleció por los malditos médicos. I wrote about dreaming, I wrote about joy. And then one day, mi hermano formateó la computadora because it didn't have enough space to download his new PC game. And I stopped and I screamed. And I was told that it will be okay. Ya deja de llorar. Llorona. I was also told that I was just writing. I can write again. I can write those same poems again. And everyone moved on, but I still mourned my words. I still mourned the lost fire of my youth. Maybe it is then that my fear to write started, because I can lose my words. I can lose my art once again. I can lose it without aviso.
Oh my God, Eileen, I felt that in my soul. Oh my God, that is horrible. Wow, okay. I felt that because I ever since I was a kid, I kept a diary well, I stopped like at 22, but I have like 10 of those notebooks from DR. I don't know.
Yes.
You guys know notebooks from DR. They have like, let me see. I got one out here that I found.
Yeah.
Like, look at this.
Yeah.
Kitty bird on. But I used to write so much. Look at this. This is crazy. And the entire notebook is filled with poems. Poems I used to write to guys, to my crushes. I have like the names of guys all over this notebook. And like this one says Omar and Angela, because that was like my first love. And I printed the poem and I put it there. I was like 16, 17. But girl, I would have lost it. But then again, that's why, sometimes you'd be like, a notebook, somebody's gonna find it, somebody's gonna read it. But if you put it in the computer, you could just lock that file or whatever, nobody reads it, or you put it in a special stick and nobody has access to it. But damn, I felt that in my soul. I'm so sorry.
Appreciate.
All right, Jadi, you ready?
Yes, I'm just gonna say it. I wrote a little bit, but then I stopped because I got a phone call. But I'm just gonna say it. It's a story or like a moment that shaped like what stories I want to hear, something like that. That was the question. When I was 14, I've always read like non-Latino authors growing up. Like I read all the Judy Blooms, all the Ramona, the Researchers Club. I read all of them.
That's the only thing you had.
Yeah. When I was 14, when I was entering right before, like the summer before I entered my freshman year of high school, we were assigned a book. Our English teacher assigned us like a book to read over the summer to talk about it for the first semester in our freshman year. And that book was Down These Mean Streets by Perry Thomas. It's the first Latino book I ever read. And that book to me shaped me because I felt like, since I've never seen Latino authors or anyone that's not like that look like us or any other group other than white that could write stories. So that shaped me like, oh wow, like I could write my own story. I could write stories and put myself in a book. And after that, like I just really just read those type of books and I just kept finding them. I mean, ended up being like all the hood books. But still they were books. So yeah, so I would say that's the moment that shaped me. And yeah, that's all.
Nice. You had a book that impacted you, that you related to, that resonated with you. Love it. Okay, Cindy.
Yo, okay. I wrote about my childhood trauma. So I said, I never felt like a normal kid. I grew up in a household that was loud, and not your typical Dominican household loud. It was an abusive loud. I was surrounded by words that were not meant to uplift me, but instead deteriorate me. La mujer que estaba supuesto a amarme me gritaba cosas horribles. Tú nada más sirves para comer. Tu papá no te quiere. I should have never had you. But these words never broke me. I'll be somebody, I promise. You don't love me, but you don't know me. I'm more than just my weight. Yo misma me quiero. And for 28 years, I told myself the opposite of what esa mujer would tell me. I uplifted myself, and I became somebody, a teacher, an inspiration to Dominican kids in Harlem. And that's all I have.
Oh,
how beautiful.
Thank you.
I was just talking to, when was it, Mariela yesterday, about teachers who yell at the kids because they don't have any other way of expressing themselves and they don't understand. And that's like almost the same thing as verbal abuse. And you create PTSD in these children, and they get anxiety, they get nervous, and they, have a hard time sleeping. And it's because, their nerves are so shot of you constantly yelling at them. And some people think, yeah, that's normal. It's definitely normalized in our community, but that's just not the way to go about communicating. Alexa, did you go? No, did you? You were the first one, yes. The Alexa here said that she'll go when she's ready. Rosita.
Oh, yikes. So let me read what I wrote. Sister Alejandra was a woman extraordinaire. I am so happy to have her teach me in preparatory year. Besides being the best teacher I had in the subjects of reading and math, she was extremely serviceable to the whole school body and the school itself, especially to the fundraising events that she turned into school fairs. My mother did not want me to be in her class because she walked like a man. She was the first lesbian I knew, but I didn't know it at the age of 7. I don't know who else knew it, but no one would talk about it except, of course, my mother, who disdained her. She went on to the school as my mother and protested that I would be in Sister Alejandra's class. I loved her just by watching her organize the sports during recreation. I loved the way the other students vied to hold her rosary while she played with the students. The rosary, with large beads and a large crucifix to match, was part of her uniform. It was long enough to be folded in half and still occupy the length from their waist to their ankles. And she was quite an inspiration to me about later on, much later on, when I realized, it dawned on me, wait a minute, she was lesbian, this woman. That's why my mother didn't like her.
And mind you, it's not kids that notice. Kids accept you. It's your parents that put these things on you.
Right,
Your
right.
mom had an issue, but you had no idea what
The contrary.
was.
I
You
loved
just thought
her.
that your teacher was cool.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you loved her.
Oh,
Here
absolutely.
comes your mom and ruins this.
So on the day that school started, my mother took me to school and put me in line in another class. She wanted me to jump preparatory.
Oh,
She
my
wanted
God.
me to do first grade. And so I waited till my mother left, and I very quietly sneaked to preparatory.
Horrible.
And I stayed. The teachers didn't tell me anything. Nobody, my mother never knew until much, much later. So I was still in her class. Yeah.
Wow. Eddie, did you write or you just listening?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I have something.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thinking about identity came early for me. In the New York City Lower Manhattan Elementary School I attended in the late 1970s and early 80s, I had a ritual. During bathroom breaks, I used to cut through the auditorium and stop at the stage. To my left, a painting of George Washington. To my right, a black and white photograph of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his chin resting on his hand pensively, like Rodin's thinker. Every time I stood in that same spot, I asked myself, who would I choose? Really? Which one did I most identify with? On PBS, I learned that Dr. King had fought nonviolently against racial segregation, economic inequality, and eventually the Vietnam War. GW, that was just a guy on the dollar bill and the cherry tree, and who didn't tell a lie, a remote figure. But I always picked MLK. He seemed more familiar, more accessible than GW. Yet, neither were Latino nor Dominican. I was a poor, light-skinned, not African-American kid, son of immigrants living in public housing. I definitely knew I wasn't white. As I got older, I read more history. I discovered more African Americans, Native Americans, Latinos, and Asian Americans who shaped American history. And although Latino and Latinx history as a field would grow as I got to graduate school, books by and about Dominican Americans, for me, were out of my purview and perhaps non-existent at that time. This made me feel very much, alas, like an outsider in the very country I was born and raised in.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Eddie. Who's the
Thank
iPhone
you for the space.
person? Could the iPhone person reveal your name, please? You could change the name on your Zoom.
Yes, I will in a second. Nicole Alvarez. Hi, I got here a
Hi,
little late,
Nicole.
so
It's okay. You here.
I think
You
I'm just
now.
picking up on the
Were you
theme
able
thing.
to write the prompt?
No, because I got here too late. I didn't
Okay.
even hear the prompt. I
Got
think
it.
I got here
Don't worry
when
about
somebody.
it. I got a bunch of more prompts.
Okay.
So the reason why I asked you guys to share stories that shape you is because sharing a story that shapes us serves multiple purpose, both for the storyteller and the audience. The storyteller, it acts as a form of introspection and self-affirmation, allowing them to process experiences, glean insights, and affirm their identity. It can also be therapeutic, providing a means of releasing emotional tension and gaining closure or perspective on past events. For the audience, such stories offer an opportunity for empathy, understanding, and connection. They allow listeners to see the world through another's eyes, deepening their emotional intelligence and broadening their worldview. Personal stories that have shaped us often resonate with others who have had similar experience or who aspire to similar goals, thereby building a sense of community and shared human experience. Additionally, these narratives contribute to cultural and historical documentation, preserving individual and collective experiences for future understanding. In summary, sharing a story that shaped us has the power to heal, connect, educate, and inspire. Okay, so I'm going to share the next prompt, and that's the impact of personal narratives, right? Well, not the next prompt, but here we speak about personal narratives. Yeah, there you go. Which has a potent form of self-exploration and healing for the writer while providing relatability, empathy, and inspiration for the reader. These stories not only serve to affirm and empower individual experiences, but also foster social awareness, cultural preservation, and open dialogue within larger communities. In essence, personal narratives function as a transformative tools that enrich both personal lives and the broader societal fabric. So the next prompt is write a brief story about an event that you wish had a different outcome. I will give you 5 minutes. Write about an event, a brief story about an event that you wish had a different outcome. Let's keep it short. Let's keep it to one paragraph. Just summarize what that event is because I want you all to share, but I also don't want to take too much time. Three more minutes, folks. 2 more minutes. Remember, just a short paragraph. Okay. Who's ready? Let's keep it short, guys, so we can move on to the next one. I'll just choose 3 of you to share. Eileen, you want to share?
Sure, I'll go quickly. I wish you had another outcome. I just wish he had the support of a mother, support of a father. I cannot imagine what it is to grow up besándole la mano a mamá, your grandmother, and tia, your aunt, every morning, or to hear the kids in school talk about their family, the activities at school that ask you to draw your family, and your family is always different from the rest of the students in the classroom. Pero no sé aún qué te voy a responder when you ask me why my sister was never present or why your dad never wanted to meet you. I just hope you always know you are loved. I just hope you know you are always loved. But I always know that I wish that this was different.
Wow, thank you. Nicole, did you write anything?
I'm just gonna listen on this one.
Okay. Ashley?
I wrote, maybe she would have been una licenciada, fighting for women's right to abortion, or a professor of Caribbean studies. Maybe she would have told me about the herbal recipes that cure mal de amores or alleviate the pain that comes with my menstrual cycle. I wish I could have grown up with a grandmother. Maybe she would have extended some mothering to me. I wish they wouldn't have killed her. Maybe she's listening, and maybe that's why I can't let go of all that I can be.
Thank you. So these are all stories that I'm pretty sure we're all connecting with again, right? So this is why it's important to share our personal narratives, right? So now we're going to speak about positive affirmations and their power. Positive affirmations are concise and optimistic statements, sort of like the ones that, did she leave? Who was it that was sharing? Oh, parece que there's Cindy. Cindy shared, that she grew up with a mother who yelled at her, but her story is an example of a positive affirmation, right? Because she used optimistic statements designed to shift her own mindset and establish a constructive outlook. And through repetition and internalization, they serve to refrain negative thought patterns, boost self-esteem, mitigate stress, motivate action, and enhance focus. By altering the mental lens through which individuals perceive themselves and their situations, affirmations wield the power to influence both the emotional well-being and the behavior. So this next prompt is write a letter to your younger self. Ya yo veo a Eduardo ahí. Write a letter to your younger self, affirming them with the wisdom you have now. Eduardo, I see you writing to that middle school gordito. You know, what will you tell yourself at any age? It could be maybe you want to write encouraging words to yourself in an age where you found yourself struggling the most, where you found yourself needing positive affirmation and wisdom and someone to have your back. What will you tell that person? What will you tell yourself? And we are not going to share this letter. Okay, we're going to keep this personal between you and the paper. But let's take 5 minutes and then we can move on to the next prompt. Okay, one more minute. Nice. Okay, so now we're going to move on to writing as a catharsis. Refers to the therapeutic aspect of the writing process where articulating thoughts, emotions, and experiences on paper serves as a form of emotional release. This acts of externalizing internal struggles can lead to clarity, healing, and a sense of empowerment, making writing not just an artistic endeavor, but also a tool for psychological well-being. And I'm pretty sure I'm speaking to the right group of people when I say that many of you use writing as a therapeutic tool, correct? Yeah. Because it is very helpful to put things on paper. You don't necessarily need to verbalize it out loud, but just releasing that and letting go of that, whether you make it public or not, is usually serves as enough for us to feel better about whatever situation we may be going through. This is why journaling is such a popular way of of keeping ourselves sane, right? So this next prompt is write about a painful memory and the lessons it taught you. I don't want you to share this with me. Just Write it down for yourself. What lessons did this painful memory teach you? Okay, let's move on to the next one. And if you didn't finish it, feel free to, if this resonated with you, feel free to continue after the workshop, okay? So about creating relatable characters, right? A relatable character is crafted with a nuanced blend with authentic emotions, motivations, and imperfections that mirror real human experiences. Such characters resonate because they reflect the reader's own fears, their desires, and moral dilemmas, allowing for a deeper emotional engagement with the story. The key to creating a relatable character lies in their multidimensionality, offering not just a role in a plot, but a genuine human experience that readers can connect with or learn from. So the prompt for this is create a character based on aspects of yourself that you like to explore. So this is where you create your personal avatar, I suppose. of if you were to include a character in a story, in a book, that reflected your personality, what would that character look like? You know, or maybe you include, you know, things you wish you had, things you wish were part of your personality, right? But still rooted in who you are. You'll still be able to look at that character and say, hey, that's Lewis, or hey, that's, you know, Jadi or Eileen. Sort of like creating your alter ego. Beyonce has Sasha Fierce, right? So who's your alter ego? And we're gonna write this. We're not gonna share this, okay? Okay, I know it's gonna take a little bit of time for you to develop this character to the full awesome capacity that I know you all can, but let's move on to the next one, right? So conflict as a catalyst for change. serves as a driving force in your storytelling, propelling both plot and character development. It introduces the stakes, the tension, and challenges that the protagonist must navigate, thereby capturing the reader's interest and emotional investment, whether internal or external. Conflict acts as a catalyst for change, pushing characters to evolve and make decisions that reveal their complexities and true natures. In essence, conflict is the engine that moves the story forward, creating a dynamic narrative landscape ripe for exploration and resolution. So as we share about personal narratives, you can either write your memoirs where you're staying true to characters, staying true to every single fact and event that has occurred in your life, or you can write creative nonfiction, which is where you take aspects of your personal life and you create these fictional settings and characters that aren't necessarily facts, right? You guys get the difference? When we say creative nonfiction and when we say memoirs, though I think people lie in their memoirs anyway. But yeah, I think they're not all completely factual. They omit some stuff. But in this prompt, we're gonna write a scene where your protagonist faces the conflict that you have faced and conquers it. Right? And again, we're not gonna share this one. I just want you to write about it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The art of vulnerability, right? Many of you have shared moments of vulnerability. Vulnerability is a critical element in impactful stories because it humanizes the characters and creates emotional resonance with the reader. By exposing weaknesses, fears, and insecurities, vulnerability adds depth and authenticity to both character and narrative. It invites empathy, facilitates relatability, and intensifies emotional stakes, thereby enriching the reader's experience and engaging with the story. In essence, vulnerability serves as a gateway to deeper emotional connections and more meaningful storytelling. So I'm pretty sure many of you have probably watched a series where you get so involved with the characters that when something happens to that character, you're like, it's like it happened to you or someone you loved, right? I do that all the time. But yeah, that's the importance of vulnerability. So here, we're gonna skip this. It's about writing dialogue where your character expresses a secret or a vulnerability. I can share with you later if you wish to use that prompt. But let's talk about, finding your audience once you write these stories, right? In today's diverse publishing landscape, writers have multiple avenues to reach their audiences. We mentioned Substack, we mentioned Medium as one of those gateways, right? So ranging from traditional publishing houses to self-publishing, options like ebooks and print-on-demand services, digital platforms such as blogs, social media, and literary websites offer immediate, albeit less formal channels for disseminating your work. The choice of platform is often influenced by your intended audience, as different demographic and interest groups gravitate towards specific mediums. Thus, understanding the intersection of publishing options, platforms, and target audiences is crucial for maximizing a work's reach and the impact. And of course, something that isn't mentioned here is your intention with your writing, right? If your intention is to only share your writing with a select audience and not have it widely publicized, that's also something for you to consider when selecting any of these mediums to share your work. So this one is about creating a synopsis, identifying 3 platforms where your story would resonate. So this would involve a little bit more of research for you, for those of you who are interested in publishing your work in any of these platforms that we mentioned, right? Social media platforms, print-on-demand platforms, platforms like Medium and Substacks and whatnot. When you have time, you could research and find the one that best fits you. Okay, so I'm going to share this workshop with you all. We finished on time actually, because there are some prompts for journaling that I've included. Is about 15 of them that I've included in here that you could use to write and continue journaling, right? So these are just some of it. Well, I put all the 15 on this presentation that you could all use on your personal time. And they touch on different themes. Okay. Any question, comment, suggestion?
Can you put that in the chat?
What happened, Rosita?
The last 3 slides, can you put those in the chat?
I can't put the slides, but I will. I said I would share the workshop with you so that you could, hold on. You know what? I'll do something better. Let me look up. Let me go into the workshop, and here it is, the power of words.
Are you suggesting Mighty Network?
For what?
You share the workshop. Where are you going to share it?
Well, I usually send it via email to everyone who signed up for this workshop.
Oh.
So let me see if I could.
I don't remember coming across any of it.
Not usually. I share it with people who ask me for it.
Oh, okay.
Here is, oh, this didn't keep the numbers, but let me see. Let me know. This is horrible for sharing it here. Those were the first. Let me know if you could tell which other questions. If you copy and paste them. Yeah, you should be able to tell them apart. So I'm sharing 15 if you want to copy and use them later on your personal time. So these prompts can be revisited, and you can use them as an ongoing tool for self-affirmation and personal growth. Any thoughts, questions, comments? Louis, how was your first workshop? Did we meet your expectations?
Yes, this is great. Definitely planning to come back. Definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
You're gonna tell people about us?
Yes. I appreciate you putting this together.
Okay, no problem. So we're here every Sunday. I don't know if I'm gonna be here next Sunday. It's my son's birthday. But Yeah, we're here every Sunday, 11 a.m. Yeah, guys.
I have a question, Angie.
Dime, Eduardo.
So it's kind of very broad in general, but I'm gonna bring it up. So I'm having a little bit of trouble balancing thinking about trauma and writing about it while actively wanting to move away from it. Because in the moment that I was experiencing these events, I was hella creative, perhaps even as a survival mechanism. Oh my, had I just written it while it was happening, I would have been done. But of course, I was in a perpetual state of survival, which is really what I really want to write about. So in itself, it's part of my subject matter about the immigrant survival. Now I'm in a okay spot meeting with all you lovely people on a Sunday without having to freak out, trying to move away from what has happened, realizing that even though I was very creative while I was very sad, I wasn't writing. Now that I'm a little less sad, I have the time and the space to write. How do you balance that, right? Because I want to think back to what's happened without getting depressed again, is what I'm trying to say. And I, it's like feast of famine with me. I can't, I don't have a full solution other than